How would you like me to tweak it? Do you want it to be more inspiring, more aggressive, or maybe with a personal storytelling touch? Let me know the direction you'd like, and I'll refine it accordingly. Look around you. Everything you see, every building, every piece of technology, every system you interact with was created by someone. The rules you follow, the limitations you believe in, the barriers that seem unbreakable. They are not laws of nature, they are constructs, ideas formed by people who came before you, people no smarter than you, and just as they were built, they can be changed. But here's the challenge. Most people never question reality. They accept what they are given. They assume that the way things work today is the way they must always work. They believe that success has a predefined path, that opportunities are distributed by fate, that their limitations are permanent. This is the greatest illusion of all. Reality is not solid, it is fluid. It bends to those who dare to challenge it. The people who change the world are not necessarily the most intelligent, nor the most privileged. They are simply the ones who refuse to accept that things have to be the way they are. They are the ones who ask, what if? What if things could be different? What if there's a better way? What if the impossible is just something that hasn't been done yet? And here's where it gets even more interesting. Once you see that reality is malleable, you can never unsee it. Suddenly every rule becomes a suggestion. Every limitation becomes an invitation to innovate. Every no becomes a challenge to find a different path. Most people spend their entire lives trying to fit into the world as it is. But the ones who leave a mark, the ones who redefine what's possible, are the ones who realize they don't have to accept the world as it was given to them. They build, they question, they push, they refuse to settle because they understand that the world is not fixed, it's waiting to be shaped. Failure is a word that makes most people uncomfortable. It's something we're taught to avoid, something we associate with weakness, incompetence, and defeat. From the time we are children, we are conditioned to fear failure. We are rewarded for getting the right answer, for staying within the lines, for following the rules without question. But what if I told you that failure isn't the enemy? What if I told you that failure is the greatest teacher, the most powerful fuel for innovation, and the one thing separating those who change the world from those who simply exist in it? Think about every breakthrough in history, every invention, every business, every revolution. None of them happened without failure. The people who make an impact are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who fail over and over, learning, adapting, and growing each time. They are the ones who understand that failure is not the opposite of success. It is the process that leads to it. The problem is that most people let failure define them. They take a setback as a signal to stop, a rejection as proof that they aren't good enough, a mistake as a reason to give up. But the people who reshape industries, who build billion-dollar companies, who rewrite the rules of what's possible, they see failure differently. To them, failure is data, it's information, it's a signal pointing them in a better direction. Every time they fall short, they analyze why, they adjust, they improve, and because of that, they keep moving forward when everyone else would have stopped. Look at any major success story and you'll see the same pattern. The greatest entrepreneurs, the most brilliant scientists, the most legendary creators, they all failed, sometimes spectacularly, before they found their breakthrough. But instead of letting failure crush them, they used it. They turned rejection into motivation. They turned mistakes into stepping stones. They understood that failure is not a stop sign, it's a detour to something greater. And here's the thing, if you want to do anything meaningful, you will fail. You will be criticized, you will make mistakes, you will have moments when everything falls apart, and in those moments you will have a choice. You can either see failure as proof that you should quit, or you can see it as the raw material of success. Because failure isn't the end, it's the beginning of something better. The world is drowning in complexity. Everywhere you look, things are getting more complicated, more steps, more rules, more noise. People mistake complexity for intelligence, thinking that if something is difficult to understand, it must be valuable. But the truth is, complexity is often a cover for inefficiency, for confusion, for a lack of clarity. The greatest minds in history didn't complicate things, they simplified them. They understood that true genius lies not in making something harder, but in making it effortless. Look at the most revolutionary ideas, the most successful companies, the most powerful technologies. They all have one thing in common: simplicity. The simplest ideas are often the most profound. The simplest solutions are often the most beautiful. The simplest designs are often the most beautiful. But simplicity is not easy. In fact, simplicity is incredibly difficult to achieve. It requires stripping away the unnecessary, cutting through the clutter, and distilling something down to its very essence. It requires saying no to everything that does not serve the core purpose. It requires clarity of thought and an unwillingness to settle for anything less than pure, undeniable efficiency. Most people avoid simplicity because it demands effort. It is far easier to add than to subtract. It is far easier to make something more complicated than it is to refine it into something effortless. But the ones who truly change the world, the inventors, the visionaries, the leaders, they know that simplicity is not just an aesthetic choice, it is a competitive advantage. Simplicity is what makes something intuitive. It is what makes something unforgettable. It is what makes people use a product, adopt an idea, follow a movement, not because they have to, but because they want to. And when you strip away all the excess, when you eliminate all the distractions, what you're left with is something pure, something powerful, something that doesn't just work, it feels inevitable. Because the most powerful things in life are not complicated, they are simple. There is one resource in life that you can never earn back, never pause, never get more of: time. Most people live as if they have forever. They put off their dreams waiting for the right moment. They tell themselves they'll take that risk later, start that project someday, chase that passion when they're ready. But time doesn't wait. It doesn't pause when you hesitate. It keeps moving second by second, moment by moment, whether you use it or not. And here's the hard truth. Most people don't realize how little time they have until it's almost gone. They wake up one day, look back, and wonder where it all went. The years they spent hesitating, the opportunities they ignored out of fear, the chances they didn't take because they were too busy worrying about failure, about judgment, about things that don't matter in the end. The people who make an impact, the ones who build, who create, who leave something behind, aren't the ones with the most talent, the most money, or the most connections. They're the ones who understand that time is their most valuable asset, and they refuse to waste it. They don't wait for permission. They don't wait until they feel ready. They act. They take risks. They understand that every second they spend doubting, every hour spent in hesitation, is time stolen from what they could be building. Look at the people who have changed the world, the ones who have shaped history. They weren't necessarily the smartest or the most experienced, but they all had one thing in common: urgency. They understood that time was fleeting, and they moved accordingly. They didn't waste their lives worrying about what others thought. They didn't let fear keep them stuck. They acted boldly, relentlessly, with an unshakable belief that now is the only time that matters. Because the truth is, you will never feel fully prepared. You will never have all the answers. If you wait for the perfect moment, you will wait forever. So what are you waiting for?